Hello, I'm Jorge Briceño, Director of Instructional Television for KLCS TV, and welcome to Reform the LA Way with Los Angeles Unified School District Board President, Mónica García. On today's episode, we'll discuss school reconstitution, which is a reform strategy that involves state or districts taking direct control of a failing school and restructuring its management and potentially its faculty in an effort to turn around the school's achievement. We'll be joined later in our program by Rafael Valderas, principal at Fremont High School, to discuss school reconstitution and the effects that it's had on his campus. But first, a chance to talk with Board President Mónica García about what's happened this month in the LAUSD. Mónica, welcome.
Thank you, Jorge.
And I don't want to break with tradition, so let's start off by restating the 5 goals that the board has set during your tenure.
Yes, we're all focused on 100% graduation, proficiency plus for all, 100% attendance for students and staff, engaged parents and communities, and safe schools. And I think we are really working to align our work. So from the actions in the classroom, and then on the school site, in the local district, and at the board level, we want to make sure that we're all focused on helping more kids read and write and get to graduation.
And I see a lot of that in the work that the board is doing and the work that's going on in the district. And as you said, a lot of that alignment. For example, I know that in order to make sure that the communication's there and everybody's aware of where we are towards these goals, school report cards are out. You want to tell us a little bit more about that and why they're a tool in moving forward towards those goals?
So as Ramon Cortines would say, the LAUSD school report card is the best in nation. It is an effort to bring the different data about a school to one sheet of paper, or in this case it's 4 sheets, but to one tool so that parents and community members can have a conversation about the well-being at that school. So are the arrows going up? Are the arrows going down? Where are we doing well? Where have we seen progress? Where do we need to do more? What does this tell me about the attendance at this school? What does this tell me about the demographics at this school? How can we all work together to support our school? That's really the key to life. We want to be helpful in helping parents and teachers, administrators, and students have the conversations around are we satisfied with our work? What needs to change? Where are we doing well? What can we do better? And it is a communications tool for the public. It's online. We also mail it home to all parents. It is also an opportunity to look year after year about the progress at that school. And this year we added the academic growth over time, which tells a parent, a student, a teacher, is this school by grade performing as expected, above what was expected, below what was expected in terms of the teaching of the students. I think the other piece that I'm just proud of is we are trying to make it as easy as possible for folks, parents, community to look at our information, the information available to central offices and to local districts, and we want to make it available to the public and to parents.
Now, as I understand, because this has been going on for a number of years now, it was intended to be, as you said, a tool, a part of the communication efforts to let the parents and the community know what's going on in our schools. What kind of feedback have we gotten now, many years moving forward, things like fourth year now that we've had this, maybe third. Has that feedback been instructional in moving that reform effort forward?
So year 1, we applauded that it happened. Year 2, it went to all schools. Year 3, we really had parents involved in the United Way, and a lot of parent groups got involved to say, you need to make this easier to understand. So we've had revisions. This is now year 4, and like I said, we are adding the academic growth over time this year for the first time. We hear from people it is not complete. There is a survey part. It is only the percentage of people who return it. So it is not a perfect tool by any means, but LAUSD is committed to continue to develop it as a tool to understand what does the CST mean? What does the CASE mean? How does my school compare with the LAUSD average? And to help people know there's attendance district-wide and then there's attendance at your school. Are 95% of the students coming to school on a regular basis? Are 95% of the faculty coming to school on a regular basis? If we look at chronic absenteeism, how big of a factor is that for our campus. So on the front, you'll see a letter from the superintendent, and that school will be compared to other schools at the district, whether it's elementary, middle, or high school, or if it's a magnet school, a span school. And then on the inside, you'll see some information about the indicator and a little bit of explanation so that we can help people understand. But the best thing the report card does is give us an opportunity to talk about what's happening at school.
And not to stray away from that, but I want to drill deep, a little deeper into one of the things you say, attendance. That's measured there, and we were talking briefly that it's critical. We've just had Norm Day, and we've got some very interesting statistics. You want to share what you were telling me?
Yes. So we know over the last 5-7 years, we have had declining enrollment in LAUSD, in large part because people have moved out of Los Angeles, in large part because people are looking for schools that meet their child's needs. We have a lot of people who ask for permits because they want to go to dual language schools. We have a lot of people who want a K-12 school or a K-8 school. And so families are looking at the surrounding districts to say, can I get the kind of school I want for my kids? So what we've done is try to increase those services within LAUSD, but we also know that we have, and also because we have a lot more charters in Los Angeles, we have to be competitive so that parents choose LAUSD as their provider. And we have had about 17,000 less students in the system. We also know that because we struggle with our dropout rate or our push-out rate, that we need to do a better job retaining the students who do show up. So when we focus on attendance, Jorge, it is about making sure that kids are in school so that they can progress academically, and it's about making sure that we are also meeting our budget goals. So we know that by increasing attendance, that's the best way to have a healthy budget because we get paid by the kids who show up every day. In Norm Day, what we do in October, we take one day, count everybody who showed up, and we report those back to the state, and that affects the amount of teachers that we need to hire, the amount of cafeteria workers, the amount of bus drivers. And so we know that our administration has to shrink if our student population shrinks. I'm very, very optimistic about our ability to curb or slow down that dropout rate. When we see schools, and you're going to learn from one today, we're going to talk about Fremont and what happens to attendance when change comes and people take ownership about a school site. We see it with our magnets. Bravo has one of the best attendance in the district because people want to be successful. You can't be successful in school without showing up. So showing up is job one. And then when we take all of those pieces together, that puts together our budget. And that's about what kind of services we can offer.
Well, you mentioned Fremont, and actually it's time to take a break, but when we return, we'll have Principal Rafael Valderas from Fremont High School, and he'll be here to discuss school reconstitution. Please stay tuned.
Came out to us when he was 12 and to his school when he was 13. He came out on stage in front of 500 students at a poetry slam. He had been bullied before, but after he came out, it became much worse. Students called him names, hit him, kicked him, and one student threatened to kill him.
I was in school in an era when the only viable response for kids who were struggling with issues of sexual orientation and identity was silence and shame. I can only imagine what it would have been like to have gone to school each morning knowing that every adult in my school was committed not only to my safety, but also to my right to live life proud and unafraid.
We will need to have resolutions like this, and they are important. We will need to have bills like AB 9 and SB 48 until the day that we are all working for, that every single child, every single student in this district, in every single classroom, during every single lunch and nutrition, during every single athletic practice, during every single passing period, is safe, secure.
Today's event is an event that's being sponsored by Friends Schools of LA, also known as FOSLA, and the Los Angeles School Police Department, in joint efforts to provide supplies to the children at Stoner Elementary for a great start of the year 2011-2012.
This is a great event where we got to have our officers spend some quality time with our kids here at Stoner, talk to them about anger management, and I think the kids really listened and absorbed it in a way that only officers can deliver a presentation.
We not only show what we can do as police officers to protect them, lead them, and counsel them, but we also show them that we're their brothers and sisters, and we want to help them out to get them through school and make sure they're prepared and they succeed in school.
Welcome back to Reform the LA Way. Joining us now is Principal Rafael Valderas of Fremont High School. Fremont reopened as a restructured campus in July 2010, and he's here to share with us the effects that this has had on the campus's stakeholders, including parents, teachers, and the administration, and of course, students. Welcome, Mr. Valderas.
Thank you very much for inviting.
First of all, share a little bit more about what exactly that means. It sounds like a big, looming kind of a task. What is school reconstitution or school restructuring, and why is it unique to other reform efforts?
We call it school restructuring for the most part, and we started the process in December 2009. And it was a long and tedious process, but for the most part, I think we have the right folks. You may have a lot of folks across the district that might not be a good fit somewhere, and they might be better fit somewhere else, but I got to tell you, the folks that we have right now, I truly feel deep down in my heart that we have some of the finest teachers, finest administration, and finest classified staff. And just to give you an indication, we just had, obviously our test scores came out again, and so we had a second consecutive year and increases in API. But more importantly, is really looking at our schedule, and we do run a 2x8 block schedule, so we afford kids more opportunities to make up classes. Obviously, with shrinking budgets, we have to be really creative within a school day. So our kids are taking 8 classes per year and per semester, and so therefore, 15% of our kids in 9th grade are matriculating, and so that went up from 45%, 15% more. And then we looked at our Casey, and so every child takes Casey prep classes, and so how do we get these kids ready for and gear them for Casey? And so huge increases. So we had 12% increase in our maths Casey passing rates, and we also had in proficiency rates. And our goal really was to get to safe harbor. We're close in math, and we just missed the mark in English language arts. But if you come to our campus and we get lots of visitors, I think for the most part you can see it's a different campus. Kids are happy to be there. It's a safe haven for our campus. Teachers really love being there. They work with our kids well. And we're looking forward to continue on what we already established on a trajectory. And so we're not going to change anything different. We're going to continue to stay the course. And so that will be our compass.
Mm-hmm. So let's take a minute, Mr. Valderas, and go back to the opening of New Fremont, which was July of 2010. Mm-hmm. And at that point, tell me what has happened on your campus. You asked people to apply again. LAUSD took responsibility saying, this is not working. We have to change our strategy at Fremont High School. And I remember at that time, Superintendent Cortines really felt this was bold. This had never been done before in LAUSD. And it was very necessary because we could not go on another year in the same manner. So what did we ask people to do?
Every person had an opportunity to apply at Fremont High School, including current staff, including classified personnel and administration. And so we went through a process. It took us 6 months to get there, but I think with the support from the superintendent, obviously, and the district, we were able to receive over 500 applications, teaching applications, not only from LAUSD, but outside the state of California. Administration, too. We had nearly 75 individuals that wanted to be an administrator at Fremont High School. It was new, it was different, it was uncharted waters, but for the most part, we knew that if we get the right fit, the right team, I'll guarantee you one thing, we were going to do the right thing for kids. Mm-hmm. And so I'm excited. It's just an exciting place to be at, but everybody was interviewed. So we had panels. For the first time, we had parents, we had children, our students, and we had folks from the community that sat in panels and interviewed all these teachers and talked about what are you going to do different for me if I'm failing a classroom? And so we wanted to hear from folks that really wanted to commit to Fremont High School and answer those bold questions. Are you going to help me if I'm failing this classroom? And what would you do? And our parents would ask, and we had translators, and the parents would ask, are you going to call me at home? Are you going to visit me at home? Are you going to tell me that my child is going to be okay and my child is going to graduate? And so now we're obviously now in our third year, or second year, and just to give you a clear indication on where we're at right now, we're estimating about 700 kids to graduate this year, more in the history of Fremont High School. And so I'm real proud of saying that.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're excited. These are exciting times. Even with the budget crunches, we got to make do with what we have, but we never forget our focus, and that's our kids.
So when you say 700 current students at Fremont will get to graduation, how many more is that than the class of 2009?
Well, my first year we had about 500, and then our post-restructuring year we did about 580. And so the schedule's working out for us. And now this year, our estimates are about 700 kids.
Wow.
And as a matter of fact, today we're doing Casey, and so we're going to make sure that these kids are on board. Yes. And so we're excited. We're really excited.
And what is causing that larger number?
Right now, again, is because kids have opportunities to learn within the school day. So we're given lots of intervention within our 2x8 block schedule. Aside from that, 2x8 block schedule.
2x8 block schedule.
Block schedule. So it's very similar to the college schedule. And the advantages are that we can offer our incoming freshmen intervention for math and also intervention for English, along with the fact that they're taking A through G courses such as algebra or geometry and also English 9. And so how do we prepare these kids so when they become sophomores, these kids are also taking Casey Prep English and Casey Prep Math. At the same token, they're taking English 10 and they're taking either geometry or algebra 2. And so they're taking a double dose and getting these kids ready and prepared because ultimately we know that without Casey, our kids are not going to graduate from high school. And with a 2x8 block schedule, we can accelerate the number of credits that they take A through G and get these kids ready. And that's why we have 700 kids.
Wow. So did you say there's a new schedule? That
2x8.
2x8 is a new schedule. And then people had to sign up to commitments.
That's correct.
At the new Fremont. And then what about those expectations that you relayed to people?
We tell teachers that you are to treat these kids as though they are your own. And I asked, how many of you have children at home? What would you expect that teacher to do with this child? Along with that, there was a commitment to return back to the school, and so there were some additional responsibilities that everybody was required to do so. But for the most part, we consider them normal requirements, weekly lesson plans. And so how do we review lesson plans collectively? And how do we ensure that we're teaching what we're supposed to teach? Along with that, there was after-school tutoring last year, and so all teachers last year, they had to provide 2.5 hours every week documented on how you're going to work with these kids to make sure that they are learning. Our kids don't have opportunities at home, but how do you do that here at school? Along with that, there's a commitment overall that you will stay at least minimum of 2 years at Fremont High School and see where we're going to be. I'm also excited that next year we're going to go off year-round calendar, so we will be on a traditional calendar for the first time in the history of Fremont High School, and that will help.
So for anybody watching, to start, when we created New Fremont, did you have 4,700 students?
4,700 students, that's correct.
On a campus built for 1,500. Like
that's
Belmont,
correct. That's correct.
So today, how many students?
I have 3,600 students.
Because we opened.
We opened up a new high school, South Region number 2, but interestingly enough, we were designated to only have 3,200. So what's happened is that folks in the community are coming back to Fremont High School. So this year, and I heard you talked about the attendance, we actually received 400 more kids than anticipated.
Wow.
It's a good problem to have, but I think we got it right. And so next year, though, I'm going to lose 1,000 of those kids and hopefully have 2,600 on a traditional calendar.
And you're going on traditional calendar because we're building another high school.
Absolutely,
for the
South Region number 12. And so we're excited about that school. It's right on Avalon.
So this is one thing. I wish we could have gone to off year-round calendar in 2009 or 2010, but that was not available. And you all have endured budget cuts, a year-round calendar, still an overcrowded campus. Now you've got uniforms, new schedules, new staff, commitments, and 700 potential graduates this year.
And reconfigured, and we had to reconfigure every year where we lost staff and lost students. and still maintain our focus at Fremont High School.
If I let me ask, because you mentioned the kids, you have a lot more students, and so to me it sounds like they're voting with their feet. But what are they saying? I mean, are you hearing from students like, wow, I didn't think this could happen here, or I mean, are they seeing the difference? Is it tangible?
Actually, interestingly enough, the kids wanted change. Our parents wanted change, but just didn't have a whole lot of voice. And again, with the courage of Superintendent Cortines and the Board of Education, change was made on their behalf. And I think for the most part, if you go back and surveys were made on our school report card, you'll see that it's exciting to be at Fremont High School. And you'll ask kids, they're excited to be there. I thought with the uniform policy, things were not going to go okay with the kids, but I got to tell you, they enjoy it because they don't have to think about what they're going to wear the next day. So we try to keep things simple for our kids so they can be in the classroom on time and learning.
And do you remember there was a lot of conversation like nobody's going to come to Fremont, parents were going to choose something else? Do you remember that?
I remember the conversations, and a lot of parents were being encouraged to go elsewhere. But we did get our attendance, if you look at our norm date, was 4,700 students. So they actually didn't go away, and we were designated to only have 4,400, so 300 more kids showed up.
And I want to just say that again. Parents and students want change. We need to remember, and this is a conversation the board is having every week. We know that parents and students are the ones who suffer the most when we've only got a 56% graduation rate, when 70% of the kids don't get to graduation, like at Fremont and some of our other big schools, when you only have 1% proficient kid. And tell us a little bit about some of the feeder pattern changes, because this isn't just a Fremont High School challenge.
I've said this before. We've had the conversation that the students at Fremont didn't get there overnight. And so I think we have to look at things holistically and take a look at what do we do in K-12 feeder patterns. The advantage next year on a traditional calendar, for the first time, Fremont will have pretty close to 90% feeder pattern with our middle school along with our elementary schools. And so how do we have those conversations to get our kids ready and prepared academically and challenge them to be ready for high school? And so right now what we've done at the middle school, they're only running 2 grades at the middle school. And so they were already on a block schedule very similar to ours, so these kids are coming in better prepared. So the incoming freshman class, I have to tell you, we're doing a better job in the middle school. The kids are much better prepared. We have more kids taking geometry because they passed algebra in 8th grade. And so we're starting to see some of the benefits. So I would say in the next generation of kids, Fremont will be a far better place to be.
Isn't that amazing? And we have to celebrate the leadership of Superintendent George McKenna,
Absolutely.
who said, if we're going to change Fremont, we have to look at this K-12 pattern. And I think every elementary school went K-8, no, K-6. And then the middle schools went 7-8. And then Fremont got the major overhaul. And as we have built schools, some of our schools have transitioned in this way where they've lost half of their population. But what we saw in the Belmont family also, Mr. Valderas, like you said, more kids came back because kids in these neighborhoods where we've been so overcrowded have been on buses, have been living with aunts and uncles to get into a different school, anything to avoid the school where, what was the graduation rate at Fremont, the 4-year graduation rate?
When we started, it was about 32%. And we're making strides and we're making changes.
Wow.
Let me ask you, because the show is about reform, homegrown reform the LA way. What are some of the key learnings that have happened in the last 2 years that you can share about this type of process of making this dramatic type of change in a school as large and as challenging as Fremont?
I think going through the reconfiguration process, what really helped Fremont this year was obviously the status of Reed. And so we had turnover. We lost 40 teachers last year. We're designated to lose 30 teachers again. But Reed kind of helped us maintain, the teachers that are really necessary to stay at a school like Fremont. And those were some learning lessons. And so we look forward to going through this process one more time. And we look forward to that. The other thing that we've learned, obviously, is that we needed to cultivate relationships and partners early on. This year, proud to say that we have about 5 nonprofit organizations that work with Fremont High School. Obviously, with the budget crunches and also less services for health services, we have wraparound services now at Fremont. And so we're proud to say that we're working with several organizations where a clinic will be built at Fremont High School. But if we would have started these relationships a long time ago, I think we would be at a better place, but it's better late than never now. And so we're excited about that. And with the shrinking budgets, what's happened now with these organizations, they provide about $5 million worth of services in the next 3 years.
Wow.
So it's ultimately the village model.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Tell us who those partners are, because we got to see some of them when we visited Fremont.
Yes, obviously the first partner that was on board was the Los Angeles Educational Partnership, and they're working with professional development with our teachers and how do we establish true, fully, both in 1600 SLC. So we're getting close to that. The other obviously is our clinic, and so we're working with the Los Angeles Land Trust. Also, we're working with UMA, and so they are the United Muslim Medical Association, where they're bringing in a clinic on our campus along with an agriculture yard, and we're going to tie it in to one of our academies for small learning communities. And so we're excited about that, and hopefully it'll be open by next year.
Isn't
So
that
we're
great?
hoping to break ground this year.
And I know Community Coalition
The
has
Community
also been an
Coalition,
important.
they have supported us from the onset, I got to tell you. And so we reached out when we needed some support from the community to restructure, and Community Coalition was the first one on board. And so we're proud to say they are a fine partner, and they take care of our kids after school. And so we teach them, and they teach them about their rights, their educational rights.
So first was the restructuring, the call to restructure, the opening of New Fremont, and then the board approved something like $76 million
yes.
for a massive makeover.
Redevelopment project. So next year we'll be moving into bungalows because our main building is going to be redeveloped brand new. We're competing with 2 new high schools. And so therefore we have to change the aesthetics. We changed it externally, but now we have to change it internally so that we can compete with our 2 brand new high schools. But I got to tell you, kids want to stay at Fremont High.
Kids want to stay at Fremont High. Congratulations to you, Mr. Valderas, to the faculty, to all your community partners. I hope you continue to help us understand the amazing work happening at Fremont High School. Thank you, Jorge. Thank you, Principal
having me.
Valderas. And thank you for joining us. If you want to learn more about the reform efforts taking place in the LAUSD or to contact me, visit lausd.net. As we continue to reform our schools in order to create the best educational opportunities for our students, it requires all of us to do our part. I'm Mónica García. Together we will reform education, achieve 100% graduation, and make LAUSD the best school district in the nation. Thank you.